Welcome to Company Showcase, an advertising feature on HowStreet.com.
My guest is Don Mosher. He's the corporate consultant for Cypress Development. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure of mine to speak to you again.
Don, it sounds like you've got some pretty interesting developments for Cypress, and one of them is very unique.
Yeah. The project itself is looking at lithium contained in what's called a claystone. The only production in the world currently comes out of either brines or hard rock spodumene deposits. And the only comparables to what we have in Cypress would be what a Lithium Americas has in Kings Valley in northern Nevada, and there was a lot of money spent there on an old Chevron deposit. But that claystone has what's called a hectorite component to it, and as a result of it, the clay binds with the lithium, and you actually have to roast it to get it out. So they have to go through a process of heating the clay up to 1,000 degrees centigrade, and then milling it, and then leaching it. So the costs are huge, and you end up with a bottleneck at the roasting spot. There's a company down in Mexico called Bacanora that's moving towards commercial production, but my understanding is they also have a hectorite component. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, although with lithium trading at about $14,000 a ton, maybe there's enough money there for them to deal with it. So other than that, there's an Australian company called Global Geosciences about 25 miles from us. They've got a deposit that's lithium and boron, about 35% boron. So it's a slightly different rock than ours, but it appears that it's heap leachable. We talked to them at PDAC, and they're moving towards feasibility on it. And then you have Cypress Resources that has been working on this project for about 12 months. Nobody that I'm aware of had ever looked at it previously, and I control a large land package in Clayton Valley going back to 2009 and 2010, and we never looked at it. We just looked at the brines, because that's where Rockwell, now Albemarle, has had their brine production for about 60 years. They were the original lithium brine producer in the world.
With this kind of unique development, Don, what kind of opportunities does it give you?
You know, what's so attractive about this is, number one, size. So our CEO is a fellow named Dr. Bill Willoughby. He's a mining engineer and metallurgist, and he came to the company because he was looking at the drill holes and got a concept for how big this thing was. I don't want to be throwing out numbers because we'll be coming out with a 43101 compliant inferred resource on it. But the deposit is 7 kilometers long, 1.5 to 2 kilometers in width. It's flat lying on surface, and it's about 100 meters thick. It runs 700 to 1700 ppm lithium. The second thing about it is the geometry, other than the size. It being a flat-lying deposit, basically with a zero strip ratio on it, when you combine size with something that's flat-lying right at surface, it overcomes a lot of potential challenges out there. The third thing is the processing potential. This thing appears to leach out like a copper oxide, which has been a long-time technology in the copper space. With our tests on this, a 10% sulfuric acid solution at 50 degrees centigrade gets out 80% of the lithium in 4 hours. So if you compare that to what they're dealing with the brines and evaporation ponds, they're very weather dependent. You'll be looking at anywhere from, call it 12 to 24 months to evaporate the brines down to a point where you can pull them out and work on the lithium in solution. With us, if we're able to do this in a vat leach scenario, we're not going to be weather dependent. We won't have a bottleneck where you're having to leave your brines sitting out in the sun for months at a time. We'll be taking this from the claystone deposit, mill it, put it in a vat scenario, pull the solution out in 4 hours, and we'll be selling the solution if we don't have some sort of a membrane technology where we actually take it to lithium carbonate.
Where exactly is all this taking place?
Well, that was the third component I was going to bring up that makes it incredibly favorable. The jurisdiction is Nevada, which is where Tesla has their big battery manufacturing plant. So Tesla's got a mandate to buy domestic product. The state of Nevada is a mining state. It's always been very friendly to mining. This is traditional mining, where it would be an open pit into a tailings pond. And the final part of this is the presidential policy that Mr. Trump has put in place. Basically, he's focused on 35 metals that he feels they need to increase domestic production of. Lithium is one of them. They've got a very small brine operation producing lithium right next door to us, but that's the only lithium production in the U.S. So everything about this deposit is incredibly favorable. It's becoming an engineering project is what it's going to be. I mean, it appears that it's an old lake bed, so you drill it like a potash deposit, and each hole has a massive area of influence, just like with potash, which were old seabeds. In a potash deposit, each hole has about a 1 mile area of influence. So you don't need to drill a lot of holes for an engineering firm to give you a compliant resource on it. And, we'll have drilled about 18 holes into this, and we've basically drilled off the entire resource to inferred level, so your costs are much reduced. It becomes an engineering project after you get the inferred resource in place.
Don, whereabouts is Cypress traded and under what symbols?
So we trade mostly in Toronto on the Venture Exchange. The symbol is CYP. We've got a Frankfurt listing, which is C1Z1. And down in the States, we've got a clearing symbol on the OTC pink sheets, which is CYDVF, which is basically for clearing purposes.
And if people wanted to get more information about Cypress, where should they go?
The Cypress development website will have our corporate presentation on it, all the structure, board members, all the rest of the management aspect that you need to look at. Right now, there's about 55 million shares outstanding and just under 80 million fully diluted. So our market cap on this is running about $13 million. As we develop this thing forward, I think we're going to get some recognition on how special this really is.
Don, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure.
Our guest has been Don Mosher. He's the corporate consultant for Cypress Development. I'm Jim Goddard. We were speaking on March 13th.
Comments made on Company Showcase are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Company Showcase is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.